Welcome to this week's edition of ASKGMBN. You guys can ask us questions all about mountain biking.
Yeah, fire away. So leave them in the comments down below or using the hashtag AskGMBN. And we'll kick it off with one from GCSLVCN. Hey guys, I've got a question. So I've bought a downhill bike a few days ago and noticed the rear shock is inverted, so the reservoir is at the bottom. Is this okay, or does it need to spin it around the other way?
That's totally okay, but it is very dependent upon your bike. And you might actually find that you could put it the other way around to what you have it right now, but it depends very much on how the linkage works, whether that reservoir could actually end up hitting the frame itself, and that could cause some damage.
That is true, but it doesn't make any difference to how the shock works. Next one comes from I am Kieran. Can we see a GMBN special of you guys trying to learn slopestyle tricks? Like a 360 or maybe a bar spin?
Well, I'm going to say in the future, then this could definitely happen, couldn't it?
Sounds like a lot of fun, actually. We need to get ourselves a foam pit, I think.
We did say that we were going to have a challenge to see who could learn how to backflip.
That is true. We haven't done that yet. We're disappointing everyone, sorry.
Maybe that should be a New Year resolution, that both of us have to learn how to backflip.
Sounds fun.
The one thing that I actually do really want to do is learn how to 360.
They're hard. I've tried. They're very hard.
Yeah, I've done 270 before on the ground, but then you get to that point and you're like, how'd you get that extra 90?
Backflips are much easier. Okay, next question. Brad MK, do you think 120mm travel front and back will be okay for some red downhill runs?
I'm going to say yes for that one, but then it depends how hard those red downhill runs are, because red is a bit of a funny classification. You find from place to place
that is true,
that they can be very different, and just the type of terrain that you're tackling. But I've got to say, 120mm with good geometry these days is very surprisingly capable.
We did say, I think it might have been last week's Ask, when someone asked about how much stuff you can do on a hardtail, and I said you can ride anything, which is kind of true, but also it doesn't mean you can ride it as fast. So someone challenged us to ride the hardline course on a hardtail, which is fair enough. You could ride it, but you're going to struggle to find speed for some of those big jumps.
And you're probably going to end up just feeling not that great.
Yeah. So I think I should throw you to a video called Are Hardtails Fast? Simple, fun, and they're always going to be around, even though full suspension bikes get lighter and even more high tech.
But are they fast? We're going to put them to a number of different tests to see if they can hang.
Right, next one comes from Shaka. What is the best way to undo a stripped bolt? So if you strip the threads on a bolt.
Ooh, this.
There's a few different options, I think, for this one. Mole grips, maybe, but you can ruin your bike if you're not careful with mole grips. So try and get onto the very end of that bolt.
Tell you my best, well, I'm not going to say best experience, because it's never a good experience when you round the bolt. But the one that I've done is you actually use a hacksaw, you cut a little groove in it, and then you can use a screwdriver and undo it.
Yeah.
Or if it's a disc rotor, I've done this one before where you've got one single bolt that you just can't get undone. You round it off, then you actually drill the head of it off.
Yeah.
And then the disc comes off, so it takes that tension that's actually clamping it all together, and you just use a set of mole grips and get that out.
Or an easy out. If you really get stuck, you can drill into the middle of the bolt and use an easy out, which is basically a reverse thread, but that is for pretty bad situations. You don't want to be doing that. Okay, next question is from Mohammed Nakib. How do I improve my confidence in doing manuals, because I'm always scared that I would fall back and hit my head or back really badly?
I'm going to say the first thing that you could do is make sure that 100% you're wearing a helmet. I find that when I'm doing manuals and wheelies, that if I'm not wearing a helmet, I do feel really conscious of if I do go over the back. But when I put that helmet on, I feel a little bit safer.
Yeah, don't be a donut. And you've got to cover your back brake, because that is the thing that will stop you. So I see a lot of people doing this. If they're using 2 fingers on the back brake, they feel like they need more fingers gripping onto the bars to do wheelies and manuals, but you've got to be covering it. So make sure that rear brake lever is in the right spot.
And let's not forget the key.
What's that?
Practice.
That is true.
Perfect.
Cool. Josh Smith, GMBN, can you answer this? Well, we'll try. If World Cup mountain bike race teams are always trying to get the lightest bike, why do they paint them? To look all good and fancy when all that does is add grams, which makes you go slower.
There's a couple of good answers for this, actually, I think.
Pound, it's pound of weight. I've always heard this. As soon as you paint a bare frame, it adds a pound.
We've seen some raw frames though.
Yep.
Trek Factory Racing, they had those raw frames at the World Champs this year, which actually looked really cool. I've got to say, matte black carbon finish, looked rad. But at the same time, you've got to remember that these World Cup teams are looking for the maximum amount of exposure on their bike. So they're going to paint them, give them special graphics, so in photos, everyone can see that whatever bike the pro rider is racing on, they can see the brand.
It's true, marketing I suppose is the answer to that. Okay, Liam Tui asks, why do bike manufacturers only install 1x drivetrains on their most expensive builds? Surely 1xs are cheaper, not to mention 9 out of 10 people prefer them. Are we simply being trolled by the bike industry?
Definitely not, because for a number of reasons. The first one being that a lot of bike manufacturers actually designing the bikes to be specific 1x bikes. You see them making the chainstays a little bit lighter, and they can really get more technical in that design process. Plus, I've got to say that those cassettes, if you actually look at the detail that goes into the SRAM ones especially, they're machined from a single piece of steel, which, I've got to say, is quite a feat. It's expensive and time consuming.
So maybe we'll see the drivetrains, you know, that 1x come down the scale on the budget, so maybe the lower end bikes do. I also think that the higher end bikes are probably aimed at more experienced, fitter riders, so that's why the 1x suits them a little bit better. Mr. Goose, I'm looking at converting to tubeless. How do you do it? Hashtag ASKGMBN.
This is a funny one because you could almost do it for any wheel set, but I'm not going to say every single one. It's a lot easier if you've got tubeless specific tyres and also rims, but we've got a full video on how to do this. So let's just throw into that.
Okay, so we're going to talk about converting from a regular setup with a tyre and a tube to a tubeless setup. The main advantages of tubeless is you take away any risk of puncturing by pinching the tube. That means you can start running lower tyre pressure, so you might find more grip. It's also going to be a little bit lighter, so you've got less rotating mass on there. It makes a really big difference to how your bike rides. It will make the bike feel more nimble.
Neil, are you ready?
What for?
It's a quick
Oh.
fire round. Whoa, watch the ceiling again this week.
Hold on.
Callum Galland, how do I measure my rear shock sag if I don't have a band around it?
Use a small zip tie, but remove it once you've measured your sag because it could attract dirt.
I'm going to say, Luke Cremez, can I use grease for bearings on a chain?
Can you grease your chain with the same stuff you use for bearings? You can, it won't be pretty. It'll be very dirty and everything will stick to it, so don't do it.
And it'll be draggy. Yeah. John Senna is saying, can you ride uphill with a downhill bike just like an enduro bike if you set the suspension very hard or set the seat very high?
You can, but it'll be really hard work because they're just heavy, draggy bikes, big tyres. It won't be much fun.
I'm going to say, ride an enduro bike. Yeah. More fun and probably just as fun on the downhills. Psycho Monkey Studios, what tyre pressure for a dirt jump?
80 PSI I would say. You want them really hard for dirt jump, so 80 PSI is about the right ballpark, or check your tyre and put it to about the maximum.
80 PSI?
Yeah, you really, if you're hitting massive bowls, you want them hard.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I think that's it for the quick fire round this year. It's a quick one.
That was quick. So this week's Correct Me If I'm Wrong, that was sent to ask@gmbn.com, is from Jacob Davey, and he's riding this trail. There's a berm, a couple of jumps, then another berm, and he's asking, how can I get more airtime and carry more speed?
It's a fun trail.
Yeah. Well, more speed will equal more airtime. So in this trail, it's going to take more speed around the corners. So to get more speed around the corners, I would recommend leaning the bike over further. So trying to pick up your outside elbow, so you keep your body weight kind of upright, but your bike laid over.
I'm going to say just before the jump, there's like a little roller as well. If you actually fully pump that, then you have so much more speed coming into that jump. And then the berm after his jump, if you just watch it again, you can actually see how high he goes up onto that bank almost.
Yeah.
If he went a little bit lower and carried around the whole way around the berm, then he's going to hold his speed so much stronger.
Yeah, it's a sort of consistent lines in berms, isn't it, rather than sort of squaring it off or anything like that. But that's pretty good. Good effort. Cheers, Jacob.
I'll tell you what, Neil.
Yeah.
I really want to see some more Correct Me If I'm Wrong videos where people are really struggling around a slippy corner. Yeah. It could be a winter riding situation where they just don't want to get wet.
Yeah, I love seeing our viewers struggle. So send your videos to us at AskGMBN.com.
God, you beat me to it.
Click on this here logo to subscribe to GMBN. It's totally free if you haven't done it already.
And if you want to watch some videos about body position mistakes, then click right here.
And over here for some maintenance hacks, top 5.
If you like this video, then give it one of those thumb up likes.
One of them.